Nothing moves the needle in the offseason like quarterback movement in the NFL. It's the peak interest. It's not necessarily a stellar free agent class of quarterbacks. And with a 2025 draft class that falls short definitely of last year, many teams are looking to free agency and the trade market to fill a quarterback need. We're going to go through the moves that best move the needle, the most interesting moves, the best moves at the quarterback position thus far in this NFL free agent offseason. Reminder, if you like these type of videos, remember to like and follow to get more of them. We'll be breaking down football for you, telling you some great stories. So like and follow for more right here. I'm going to start with Justin Fields. We're going to go down to the top move. Justin Fields signing by the Jets. They're moving on from Aaron Rodgers. Relatively low-cost signing of Justin Fields. And low commitment. 2 years, $30 million guaranteed, as I mentioned before. Aaron Glenn knows Fields is a dual-threat quarterback, which he wants. He faced him a couple of times when Fields was in Chicago and Aaron was the coordinator on the other side with Detroit. He's 26 years old. He went 4-2 as the Steelers starter last year. Respectable 93.3 passer rating. Only one interception, 289 rushing yards, 5 touchdowns before being replaced by Russell Wilson. He was returning from a calf injury and replacing him. He's reunited with Garrett Wilson, the Jets' top receiver. Played together at Ohio State. He also has a good running back in Breece Hall. That, as was the case in Chicago, the offensive line's a question mark. And we're going to have to see how this plays out and how they build around him. The big thing is it's not that it's a boom signing. It's a low-risk signing for a guy that has a lot of potential that they could potentially hit it big. And if they don't, it's the best deal they could make in terms of the open market trade or free agency. They have the 7th pick in the first round, 10th pick in the second round. So if they feel like there's a quarterback that they like, they could still make that move to hedge their bet a little bit and give them some depth at the position. The next biggest move, something that people would just dismiss, but how about the Bills locking up Josh Allen? It was maybe a foregone conclusion. But the guy is as good a quarterback as there is in the league. Certainly Patrick Mahomes has been more productive in big games, but Josh Allen's played very well in those big moments. He's led Buffalo to 5th straight AFC East title in the AFC Championship game several times now. He's 28 years old. They've extended him. Their first-round pick in 2018, 3-time Pro Bowler, 6 more years, $330 million, $250 million guaranteed, the most ever for an NFL player. He was previously under contract through 28 for $43 million per year under his deal signed in 2021. His new deal with the $55 million per year average ties him for the league's second highest average salary, only behind Dak Prescott at $60 million per year. A deal there, a bargain there. They've cleared cap room, extended a guy that's going to be there for a long time, and they've got him for longer. They would have had to redo this deal at a much higher price within a year or so. So a really good move. He is the key to this franchise. No question going forward. It's a really good move. The next move that I thought was pretty good was by the Colts signing Daniel Jones. He parlayed that 22 season that included 22 combined touchdowns, a 92.5 passer rating, 708 rushing yards, a road playoff win in Minnesota, into a $40 million per year contract with the Giants that drafted him 6 overall in 2019. No, he's been a disappointment when you factor in where he was drafted. He was overdrafted. The 23 and 24 seasons were injury-filled and lacked production. He played behind one of the league's worst offensive line. He was released by the Giants last year, and he spent time on the Vikings practice squad before being the number 3 quarterback in the playoff loss to the Rams. When Sam Darnold left Minnesota for Seattle, the Vikings wanted to re-sign Jones on a short-term bridge deal, similar to Darnold last year. And they have a first-rounder from 2024, as you know, J.J. McCarthy, returning from a season on the injured reserve with the meniscus surgery. So he may not be completely ready by the early part of the season. They wanted Jones to be that guy. But the Colts offered Jones an opportunity to compete for a starting job, not just be a bridge to J.J. McCarthy in Minnesota. He can compete with Anthony Richardson, who has dealt with injuries and inconsistency in his first 2 years. Sensing the Vikings were firmly committed to McCarthy and likely with a stronger offer, and Indy, Jones took the Colts offer, a 1-year, $14 million deal, $13.1 million guaranteed, with incentives that can bring his pay up to $17.7 million, which they hope they are able to pay because that means he's having a really good year. It potentially sets up a big payday for him in 26, as the case was for Darnold with Seattle this year in his deal. So a good move for Daniel Jones. But what about for Indy? It gives them a quarterback they can turn to, that can at least keep them in the playoff mix if Anthony Richardson continues to falter. The next move that I thought made some sense, considering the options, Geno Smith being traded to the Raiders, Seattle, knowing that they had a deal, wink, wink deal. These deals are done beforehand, folks. Not officially, but these are verbally done behind the scenes. Knowing that they were going to get Sam Darnold, Seattle opted to move Geno Smith to get something for him. And where was he going to be the best fit? There's former head coach Pete Carroll, now with the Raiders. The team had been in negotiation for an extension of the 3-year, $75 million contract in 23, but they couldn't reach an agreement. So Seattle getting the deal done with Darnold for 3 years, $100.5 million. 34-year-old Smith revived his career under Pete Carroll, had backup stints with the Giants, Chargers, and Seahawks before taking over for Wilson. He was a comeback player of the year in 22, led the Seahawks to the playoffs. He led the Seahawks to a 10-7 record last year, but the team missed the playoffs. He had passed for a team record 43-20 passing yards, 21 touchdowns, but he threw 15 interceptions, was sacked 50 times, which both third most in the league. The Raiders are taking on Smith's $31 million salary in the final season under contract, while Smith is still seeking an extension of exceeding $40 million per year. The Raiders have the 6th overall pick in the upcoming draft. They could use it on a quarterback while not committing long-term to Smith. So he's a bridge quarterback that they can decide at the end of the year whether they want to hitch their wagon to him long-term. It makes sense. It gives them a chance to be competitive this year without committing long-term future to him. It makes a lot of sense. That leads me to Sam Darnold with the Seahawks. One of the biggest bargains last season on a 1-year, $10 million contract with the Vikings after being a bust with the Jets as the 3rd overall pick and limited success in Carolina and San Francisco. Kevin O'Connell factor played big here. One of the better skill position supporting class that you will find, led by Justin Jefferson. Unbelievable year. 35 touchdowns, 43, 19 passing yards, 14 wins. It ended poorly. Season-ending loss to Detroit with the top NFL seed on the line. But I think Detroit was just better. And Darnold looked rattled, missed some open receivers, no question. Followed up by the playoff loss to the Rams when he sacked 9 times and turned it over twice. Once the Vikings did not place the $40 million franchise tag on him, J.J. McCarthy is their future. It was apparent that Donald would get a better offer than another 1-year bridge deal that the Vikings were trying to get there. So they turned to the Seattle deal, and 3 years, $55 million guaranteed. Seahawks take the risk of Darnold not playing at the level that he did in Minnesota because it's not as good of a team. They'll be without a DJ Metcalf. They'll be without a Tyler Lockett. They will be without a team that's just not as good as Minnesota. If you look at it, Seattle kind of trades it on a short-term deal, spend a little more money, but they get a 3rd-round pick in the Geno Smith trade. They do think there's a little bit more upside with Darnold, and there probably is relative to Smith. But the likelihood is Darnold won't play nearly as well as he did with Minnesota. Still, factoring in everything, a pretty good deal. I think the best deal done for a quarterback was the Rams getting a deal done with Matthew Stafford, who's, look, he entered 25 with only a $4 million guaranteed on his remaining 2 seasons. He was scheduled to earn $27 million in base salary and a roster bonus this year on his 4-year, $160 million contract signed in 22. The market has changed dramatically recently for a quarterback of his pedigree. He comes off a 24 season, outstanding 37, 62 passing yards, 93.7 passer rating, 11 wins, NFC West title, playoff victory over the Vikings, playing about as well as anybody down the stretch. Prior to agreeing on a restructured deal with a significant raise in that $40 to $50 million range, but no additional years, the Rams allow Stafford and his agent to talk with other interested teams, including the Raiders and the Giants. But 37 years old, it looked like he took a little bit less money to stay with the Rams, where he can still work with Sean McVay. They have a team that's still very good and competitive. Signed Devontae Adams. The fact that he doesn't have to move his family. This is a team. This is a Rams team that is absolutely one of the top 3 teams in the NFC in terms of competition for the Super Bowl as it stands right now with their roster. To get the money and to get him locked up is a good deal for the Rams, but much better deal for Stafford to stay with the Rams. If he went to the Giants or the Raiders, those are teams that are not going to win big anytime soon. So that's a look at to the best quarterback moves this offseason. A reminder, if you want more information and breakdowns like this, remember to like and follow for more videos like this.